A law that's been on Hoosier books for 80 years is set to change after a vote this week from lawmakers in the Indiana General Assembly. The Indiana Senate voted 27-22 to repeal the Common Construction Wage Act. One local mayor says the change will impact business in his Porter County community. Mayor James Snyder of Portage says passing the repeal will mean more out-of-state contractors on area jobs and fewer local laborers getting work. The act had established wage rates paid to construction workers on Indiana's public works projects and allowed local boards to set wages for each state or local public construction project. And while supporters say repealing the act will save taxpayer money, Mayor Snyder said it will have a negative impact on economic development.
When somebody gets paid a wage, they come and they shop at a grocery store or they support the local economy. Repeal of common construction wage opens the door for other states where wages are lower to come to our community and build our projects. And that's what we're trying to avoid. We want Portage people or regional people building our city halls and our parks. We don't want them coming from other states at cheaper wages, sleeping in cheap hotels and eating bologna sandwiches. We want them living here, coming home with their family and supporting our local economy. As a city, what we'll do is we'll try to ensure through the bid process that we come up with ways for local contractors to get local projects.
The mayor says he hopes the city council will consider passing an ordinance to increase the city's threshold for local contract bids to 10%. Governor Mike Pence is expected to sign the bill to repeal the Common Construction Wage Act into law. The warm weather means there's another group of construction workers already on the job. Safety officials say with the increase in temperatures comes more chances for road crews to work outdoors. That means more workers expected near the streets you drive on. The Mississippi Street widening project got underway this week. Crews are working in the fourth phase of the project that is set to improve traffic flow. INDOT spokesperson Matt Deitchley says there are not a lot of major roadway projects projected this season, but do expect minor ones throughout the region. He says a Porter County Bridges project started last year along I-94 is back up, and that crews are paying special attention to preserving what good roadways we already have. He says the priority this construction season is restoration projects along the 5,000 miles of roadway here in Northwest Indiana. To keep you up to date on projects in your neighborhood, you can follow at INDOT Northwest on Twitter. The Indiana municipal primary elections are coming up on Tuesday, May 5th, and the candidates are out in force. In Gary, 4 challengers are trying to snatch the Democratic nomination from incumbent Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson. In Portage, 3 Democrats are fighting for the right to face off against Mayor Jim Snyder. And in Rensselaer, 2 Republican candidates are looking for a chance to unseat Democrat Mayor Steve Wood. Mayor Anthony Copeland of East Chicago also faces 4 challengers for his party's nomination. On Monday from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM will have live coverage of the East Chicago mayoral debate. On Tuesday, April 28th from 7 to 9 p.m., Lakeshore Report's Steve Walsh will be moderating the Hammond mayoral debate with incumbent Mayor Tom McDermott, his Democratic challenger Homero Chico Hinojosa, and unopposed Republican nominee Humberto Prado. That debate will also be carried on 89.1 FM. Lakeshore Public Radio will have live election night results and coverage beginning at 6 p.m. on May 5th. Northwest Indiana residents lined up at post office around the region this week to get their tax returns mailed by the April 15th deadline. But making sure returns are filed on time is only part of the equation. The other, making sure you're not a victim of fraud. Last tax season, the Indiana Department of Revenue stopped approximately $88 million in identity theft refunds and 78,000 fraudulent returns. The department expects those numbers to be even greater this year. The most Hoosiers are aware of tax scams and identity theft. Many taxpayers don't know that their kids may be particularly vulnerable. The Identity Theft Assistance Center says that 1 in 40 households with children under 18 experience child identity fraud. Bill Stanczykiewicz, president and CEO of the Indiana Youth Institute, says children can be very attractive targets.
This goes undetected for years. Why would you think to check the credit of your child when they're not buying a house or a car or opening up a credit card? We also know that the criminal element sees the information of children as prime. This is the gold standard for the bad guys because when they use information from kids, it's easier for them to get away with getting phony credit and getting financial access illegally.
The Indiana Attorney General's office offers a free credit-free service to all Hoosiers, which helps prevent anyone from opening a line of credit in your name without your permission. Parents can use the service to protect themselves and their kids from identity theft by going to www.indianaconsumer.com. There will soon be almost 600 new opportunities for low-income Indiana 4-year-olds to attend preschool. Governor Mike Pence announced this week that the state is partnering with Early Learning Indiana and the United Way, among others, to make On My Way Pre-K, Indiana's first state pre-funded pre-kindergarten program, accessible to more up-and-coming Indiana students. Grants totaling more than $435,000 have been forwarded to 40 early learning providers throughout the state, opening up the new spots. Applications for children starting preschool in Ellen, Marion, Vanderburgh, Jackson, and Lake counties in fall of 2015 are being accepted now through the end of the month. Families can apply at www.onmywayprek.org. Coming up, a new program hopes to improve relations with law enforcement by sitting down for a friendly cup of coffee. That story, plus Steve Walsh, up next on Lakeshore Report.
Lakeshore Report wants to hear from you. Send your thoughts, concerns, questions, and story ideas to tvfeedback@lakeshorepublicmedia.org. You can also reach us on Facebook and Twitter at Lakeshore Report. Make sure to tweet us using the hashtag NWIPride and you may see your comments on air. Lakeshore Report, providing you region-focused content.
There's a nationwide effort underway that's brewing up better community relations right here in the region. The community policing program, Coffee with a Cop, is a national initiative supported by the U.S. Department of Justice. The program aims to improve relationships between police and community members, one cup of coffee at a time. Stephen Latimer has more on how the program is working in Cherville and Gary.
Police work kind of bad with PR sometimes, you know. So.
This event is just what the name says it is. Coffee with a Cop, but minus the sirens and being pulled over. It's a chance to get to know the local cops. Officers here say they know the profession has a black eye right now because of a few bad apples, but they hope this program will change that perception.
Just do your job like you're supposed to, properly, legally, and you won't have a problem.
Yeah, I thought it was a good idea. I feel a little bit more comfortable that way. If I ever encounter them, I think it would make me feel a little bit more at ease.
I think that it's a great idea that they're getting out to the public, because I think a lot of people are afraid of them, you know, when they pull you over and for a ticket, you know. And I think that you should not be afraid of them.
One thing we noticed, all the residents at this event were white. The negative incidents that have occurred with the police nationwide were mostly with people of color.
We're an accredited police agency, and one of the things we do is track all of our arrests, our contacts with the public, our complaints against the police for excessive force. Last year we had 0. Okay, and I think a lot of that is developing relationships in your community. When you go somewhere and go someone, they say, "Oh, I know that officer. I had coffee with him," or "I know that officer," and it just creates a much better situation, atmosphere, communication-wise.
Eventually, this African-American couple arrived. They are not from Cherville, but they frequent the town. They think this program is a good idea.
I appreciate the fact that they would want to reach out, you know, especially with everything that's been going on in the media and all the incidents that have been, you know, portrayed on the TV.
I just appreciate the fact that he came over and spoke and extended his hand out. You know, that was a good gesture in itself. But, well, I know quite a few police officers, and I know Hammond, Gary, and other places. So I understand that in every occupation you have some good and some bad.
In Gary at Indiana University Northwest, they are holding a Coffee with a Cop event too. This time the audience is mostly African American and young people. The reception here was good.
I know for a fact that there are some good guys out there, and they're actually here for our safety and our protection, and I respect the service that they do.
From a citizen's point of view, I have a certain perspective, you know, about different roles that people play in our society, and this gave me a broadened perspective on cops.
Indiana University Northwest Police Chief Patricia Nowak says they have done this program for several years, and it's also helped solve crimes.
And there were some issues that they had with some gang activity So an emphasis were put on that, and some of the problems were referred to Gary, and Gary has been very receptive.
Community Police Officer Clifford Caldwell says this is not just a public relations program.
People typically don't want to talk to the police when a crime happens, but when we do this, we build relationships, and we're able to solve a lot of crimes that way. And so when we build these relationships, whether it's Coffee with a Cop or the Citizens Academy, people are more forthcoming with information because they trust us, they know us. So there are some stats, and crime around the campus is down 31% because of our efforts in the community.
In Gary, Stephen Lattimore, Lakeshore Report.
Officer Caldwell reports programs like Coffee with a Cop have resulted in a 30% drop in crime on the IUN campus. A local organization that has been taking a comprehensive approach to improving lives in the region is losing one of its founding members. Lakeshore Report's Steve Walsh talks with resignation with Dennis Rittenmeyer.
After 3 years, Dennis Rittenmeyer is stepping down as the head of the community organization One Region. He came in as the first executive director of this combined group. He's leaving an organization that has a wide range of goals, from improving healthcare and transportation to improving cooperation among the various cities and towns in the region. Dennis, welcome.
Steve, thank you. Glad to be here.
What have you learned? What have you learned about how the region works? Because you've not only did this for 3 years, you've been involved in a lot of projects.
Well, as we were just speaking off air, what I've learned is no one's in charge. And so with, at least in Lake County alone, 18 governmental units, 18 school corporations, 18 police departments, when you try to do something like, and the best worst example is the consolidation of the emergency 911 system, we still have 2 holdout communities, and they're headed by independently elected officials, and they can say, no, we don't want to do it.
So is the region just simply doomed here? We've got so many entities, we've got so many different communities, we've got a couple of different counties here. There's no one large, overwhelming player. Are we just always going to squabble amongst ourselves?
Well, it's not a very pleasant scenario, and that, of course, has been the history. The reference to balkanization has been around for the 30 years that I've been back in the region, and if not before. But I think, again, it takes hard work, takes some patience, certainly, and occasionally I run out of patience, I'll confess. But to continue to search for the good ideas that will help improve the quality of life for all of our citizens. And the One Region agenda list, if you will, is pretty exciting with some things that we're working on. I think they hold the promise of improving the quality of life for our citizens.
Okay. So you have... But when it comes to some of these big things, like, and I find that one of the most frustrating things when I have people on the air is nobody disagrees that we need better health care in Northwest Indiana. Nobody disagrees that we need better public transportation. But yet, even though you see so many people that seem eager to delve into these issues and they seem eager to be involved, that in the end, nobody seems to agree on a solution.
Well, I don't know. I'd quarrel with you a little bit about whether people agree we need improved public transportation. There are plenty of people who say, no, we don't need it. I won't ride it. I'm not going to pay for it. In the case of the 9/11, 911 consolidation, that was a state law that we were supposed to conform to, like the other 91 counties in the state, by December 31st. Well, we failed that deadline. There's another one coming up. But we're still squabbling. We still have 2 communities that don't want to join. So I don't mean to say that everybody agrees on the concept and then we just have to work out the details. Sometimes it's that easy. Other times not so much. The 2 examples I just mentioned. We're
right.
Worse off in the category of public transportation. We are worse off today than we were when I started as president of the Regional Transportation Board 15 years ago.
That has to be frustrating. So what's the solution? After all this and after all you've learned, and what's the solution here?
Well, I think the solution is continuing to call people together, interested parties. Don't be exclusive, be inclusive, so that everyone that wants to has an opportunity to get their views on the table. But that's where we begin to have difficulty because I'll make up some numbers, but let's say we have a conversation about some initiative and 75% of the people want to do it one way and 25% of the people want to do it the other way. The way we operate in Northwest Indiana, everyone has veto power.
Right.
Every elected official can say, no, I'm not going to do it.
Oh, so how do you stop that?
Well,
or can you stop that?
Actually, Indiana has quite a fine example, in a sense, with the city-county arrangement, Unigov, as it is known, in Indianapolis. And you may have seen that Chris White, just a couple of weeks ago, wrote an editorial about the city of Lake, that if we could pull our communities together into a single city, we would be a very powerful force.
Unfortunately, that's where we're going to have to leave it. Dennis Rittenmeyer, who's at some point going to be leaving as the head of one region. Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Homelessness is a problem faced not just here in the region, but around the world. Many homeless struggle with mental illness as well as substance use disorders. Most programs designed to help homeless individuals require them to first enter treatment, rehabilitation, and then transitional housing. A new study evaluated a program where homeless adults transition directly from the streets or shelters to permanent housing, while also receiving intensive mental health support. Catherine Dolph has the details in this week's JAMA's report.
Hercules is enjoying his new home.
After 10 years homeless, I felt like I was born again.
After losing his business and then his mother, he became depressed. Hercules participated in the Housing First program, where homeless adults move directly from the street or shelters into permanent housing while working closely with a support team.
Individuals with moderate mental health needs represents a very large segment of the homeless population across North America.
Doctors Vicky Sturgopoulos and Stephen Wang from St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto and co-authors recruited about 1,200 homeless individuals from 4 large cities across Canada. A little more than half the participants received rent supplements and intensive mental health support from project teams. The remaining participants did not receive rent supplements and were instead directed to services available in their community. Both groups were followed for up to 2 years.
They were housed with everybody else in the same income bracket. That is, they were not placed in housing dedicated for people that experience mental health problems or experience homelessness. Individuals in the intervention group had much greater success in achieving stable housing compared to the usual care group.
The study appears in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association.
People assigned to the Housing First intervention were far more likely to be housed and spent much more time housed over the 2-year follow-up period. While the intervention is very successful, their overall quality of life did not improve significantly as a result of the intervention.
The Housing First model has been used for homeless individuals experiencing severe mental illness who required intensive and costly support services.
We can now broaden this model to include people who have more moderate needs for services and can do so at a lower cost than the more intensive version of the intervention.
Hercules has taken computer courses, meets regularly with his support advocate, and even rescued his cat Leo. He also helps those who are still homeless, encouraging them to stay positive.
Just keep your chin up and see the green light. They're going to come some point.
Catherine Dolph, the JAMA Report.
In an effort to give our viewers even more insight on region events, we're collaborating with the state's second largest newspaper, the Times of Northwest Indiana. Regularly, we'll have an exclusive preview of some of the top stories in this Sunday's paper. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the death of Ryan White, the Kokomo teenager who gained international support during his fight against AIDS. Times reporter Vanessa Renderman traveled to the Children's Museum of Indianapolis to talk with Ryan's mother, Jean White Ginder, who donated items from his bedroom to the museum to help children understand his fight and preserve his memory.
I think Ryan embraced it because I think eventually he saw that he was making a difference and people were listening to him. That, you know, I don't think he set out to do it, but I think that he saw that the message was getting out there, education was being done, and people were listening to him. He just wanted to be an ordinary kid, and I think his room shows that. I mean, here was an ordinary kid that liked to collect comic books, G.I. Joes, and Transformers, and just like every kid did during that time period. And I think that's what Ryan wanted to be. It was neat to be able to meet the celebrities and famous people and all, but when it would come right down to it, I can remember Michael Jackson saying, You know, Ryan never mentioned him being sick, never mentioned him having AIDS or he didn't feel good. He said every time I was ever with Ryan, I mean, you know, he didn't want to appear sick. He didn't want people, you know, like anybody to feel sorry for him. When he was first diagnosed, he used to see people on TV like wasted away. And that really bothered him because he said that gives a bad impression of what people with AIDS are like, that they can't do anything. They're just always on their deathbed. He said, I want people to understand that people with AIDS can do everything anybody else does. He made people listen and educate themselves on AIDS far sooner than we would have had it not been Ryan as the teacher and the educator. I think we would have been in a lot slower process of getting attention drawn to this disease. And that's what Senator Kennedy and Hatch said, because they named the bill the Ryan White Care Act. And I think, you know, they felt like this was a chance, even though Ryan was not living, he had just passed away, to make a difference. He always said, I'd like to be famous, but not because I had AIDS. But I think that he was famous because of his education. I remember Evan Bice said, I think Ryan will be remembered more for what he taught us about living than the disease that affected him. Yeah. So I thought that was a neat quote that he gave, because I think, you know, I think Ryan thought that all anybody would ever remember about him was he was the AIDS boy, you know. Yeah. I don't think he'd ever even dreamed that 25 years later people would still be talking about Ryan White.
For more information about this story, you can log on to www.nwitimes.com. And don't forget, to find out more about any of our stories, the ones we've reported, go to www.lakeshorepublicmedia.org. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you next time on Lakeshore Report.
Joining me for this edition of Eye on the Arts is Tricia Hernandez, Marketing and Development Director for South Shore Arts. And we're here to talk about the ball.
Yes, once again, it is the 22nd annual Beaux-Arts Ball. And it's coming up on June 5th. Mm-hmm. It'll be here before we know it. Always the first Friday in June. Mm-hmm.
What's the theme this year?
The theme is very fun. Let it go. Okay?
Yes.
So, of course, GO is G-O-G-H,
yes.
honoring Vincent van Gogh, of course, and
yes.
a little bit of takeoff on Frozen.
Yes.
So we always have fun with it.
Yes, this is our third artist. Last year was Hello Dolly.
Right.
And Show Me the Monet.
Show Me the Monet.
This is getting to be a racket. We're just doing artists year after year. But Monet, I think that was a couple years, there was a gap.
I think we had Roaring 20s in between.
Oh, thank goodness.
You know. So anyway, so the ball is coming up, and it really it raises money for our kids' programs. And so lots of people can help us in many different ways. If you can't come, you can donate. Mm-hmm. You can donate dollars. You can donate auction items. And you can look for information on the website. And it marks the 20th year, I was thinking about that, of our Every Kid programs.
Yeah, it is.
Which last year served like 30,000 kids. But in 95, how many was it? Like
30 or 40.
Right.
The first year.
So something to really be proud of, and it keeps growing every year because of the ball.
Right. Arts education programs to take the place of art being eliminated, art and music being eliminated, drama and dance. Because many of the Every Kid programs involve more than just visual art. It's all of the arts.
Yes.
And in many cases, it's the only exposure that children have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important that we continue to do it. But last year we always net a lot.
We always net a lot.
And last year we netted, what, $30,000 over budget, or not quite 30?
Not quite 30.
Okay.
But it was close.
Brag.
Yeah, he keeps raising the bar on me.
I'm sorry.
But it was very, very good.
Yeah.
And thanks to everybody. I mean, the community really comes together for this. So again, if you can't come to the ball, the invitations are out. So if you need an invitation, give us a call at South Shore Arts. And if you can't come, please consider donating for the ball.
All right, thanks. And good luck.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Eye on the Arts. Eye on the Arts is made possible in part by South Shore Arts, the Indiana Arts Commission, and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency.